well, Mrs. Capello, thank you for meeting with me. I've got the rental agreement here. I just have a few more questions before I sign it.
What would you like to know?
Okay. Even though I'm not paying rent until the first of the month that I move in, you want to take the damage deposit now. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I take your security deposit now to ensure that you won't cancel out near the end of the month at a time when it might be difficult for me to re-rent my place.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. And so each month I have to pay on or before the first of that month, and the rent won't increase for an entire year, right?
That's correct, Steve. If I want to raise the rent, I need to give you a rental increase notice 3 rental periods before the rent increase is to take place. I am allowed to raise the rent once in any 12-month period, but only by the allowed percentage set by the residential tenancy branch.
What if I want to move out? I mean, could I use my damage deposit to take off of my last month's rent?
Only if I agree to that in writing. Usually you have to pay the full month's rent, and then later you will get back some or all of your security deposit depending on any damage done to the unit. Ooh, also, if you want to move out, I require 1 month written notice before the rent is due. So for example, if you want to move out on May 31st, I need to get my written notice on April 30th in order for that to be proper written notice. Verbal notice is not enforceable.
Sometimes the landlord must provide written notice to the tenant. An example of this is the Notice of Rent Increase form. Steve needs to know that the rent can only be increased once a year by the allowable amount. The rate varies each year, and it is posted on the Residential Tenancy Branch website. If the rent increases more than the allowable amount, the tenant informs the landlord in writing of the allowable increase amount. If the landlord still wants a higher increase, the tenant can submit an application for dispute resolution, asking the landlord to comply with the law. If the landlord wants to raise the rent by more than the allowable amount, the tenant must agree in writing, or the landlord must submit an application for additional rent increase to the Residential Tenancy Branch. A dispute resolution officer will listen to both parties and decide if the additional increase is justified. If the illegal rent increase has already been paid, the tenant can deduct the amount that was overpaid from the next month's rent.